You doing today? Welcome into Train and Trade. If you want to keep up with if you want to keep up with all the events over at DTI, make sure you join us at dtitrader.com/telegram. And of course, come and join us over on YouTube. To join Tom's free YouTube channel, go to dtitrader.com/YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe. Subscribe to make sure that you get the up-to-date information. Like to let us know you're there. And just want to go ahead and say good morning to everybody in that room. Good morning. Welcome into the live chat. Good to see everybody. We got a few people logging in. Great to see that. So let's see. And I think I got logged in as a moderator, so that's nice. Not stealing experience from anybody else, but if you log in, like, subscribe, and participate in the chat, we'll be more than happy to participate back with you. Risk disclaimer, because we're going to be talking about markets this morning. That's what we do here at Trade and Trade. There is a very high degree of risk involved in trading. You and you alone will be responsible for the decisions that you make. So make sure that you're making them in the right way. Consult your financial advisor and all the other information you need to do to be responsible in that, and always consider risk when trading. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. And let's see, what have we got here? Crude opened last night 112.96, overnight high at 115.48. And of course, why? Well, Iran. It's the big story. It has continued to be the big story. Started to be the big story at the end of February, as Tom was telling us to circle the wagons. And really, we're getting daily updates from there, intraday, throughout the market day, and they can impact the market. So we always want to be aware of that. This week, starting off with day 3 of the month of April, this is the third trading day. And so we're going to get a good sense of how the market looks here. PCE and GDP coming out later this week on Thursday, CPI on Friday. Key levels to keep in touch with. Current high of the month is 66.61 for the S&P futures. We opened this week at 65.90 and the month at 65.62. Our low of the month 65.0375, so that becomes your first 3 days high and low as it stands right now. Tom, your opinion on this market after the Easter holiday? Uh, what are you looking at? Or were you still looking to try and figure it out?
Well, I think that we're in the third day of our 3-day algo, and if you look at the range of it, what was the low you gave us on the E-mini, Chuck?
650375, basically
That was 3-day
6504.
low,
Yeah, that was 650375.
6503. Really?
Yes, sir. Did that on Thursday, early.
Okay, 6503. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was thinking about some reason I was thinking about 6350, but that was last month, right? 6350.
Yeah, that was actually last week's low, I believe, but it was in the month of March.
Gotcha. So 6503, and we got 6661, a new high today, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that's what about 158 points, call it 160, 80, about 65, 85 areas, about the midpoint, somewhere around there. Okay.
Sounds
And
about right.
as John just posted in here, we had a nice jobs report on Friday. That's the problem is there's a lot of uncertainty about, there's always uncertainty about the future, no question about it, but there's a normal level of uncertainty about the future. And then, of course, you've got a heightened level. The heightened level of uncertainty happens in the market when you check the VIX, and it's at this morning 2380, below 20, then you start getting some confidence in trends. And I'm talking about trends on options, that kind of stuff. Now, I was watching an option this morning, and just share this with everybody, okay? Uh, on AMD. Were y'all watching AMD this morning? Anybody watching AMD? I was watching it pretty close. It went from an opening of 219 and a half immediately up to 226. Anybody see that?
Yeah, kind of aggressive on AMD. And Tom, last week they were around 200, so they've had some real good growth over the past few days.
Well, but the point I'm trying to make is it went to 226. And heck, we only been trading hour and a half, and now it's at 220, still above its opening. But the volatile nature of that, if you try to go buy an option, unless you're just perfect, buy it, sell it, that option, that particular option, what I'm talking about, the near term expires this Friday, which is close, obviously, went from a high of 535 down to a low of 245. So that option, I'm just trying to point out the risk involved in it, okay? It went from 535 down to 245. That's less, it cut itself in half on that move back towards the opening price, which I thought was sort of extraordinary in that short period of time. And I think that really highlights the danger that's in the market. And, and I want to say what I'm trying to do, I'll just tell you what I'm trying to do. I'm staying in a lot of cash, but I'm finding maybe some stocks here and there I wouldn't mind owning later on down the highway, so to speak, and using using a put selling strategy. I covered that here, I guess about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and A&D is one of those stocks I'd like to own in the second half of the year, but you can't buy the stock because you can't control the risk. You can't buy options on it to control the risk, but what you can do, if you really want to own it, you can go in there and say, this is the price I'll buy it at, and bring some premium in and see if they come down that low, which, there's some dramatic premiums in some of these options. So anyway, I just thought I'd bring that up. But my opinion is our whole goal, and it really slows us down quite a bit, is not to lose money. This is money that we can invest once the market returns to normal. Normal to me is defined with a VIX less than 20. Just curious where I think normal would be. So my advice has been very guarded. Really, the only thing I think you can actually trade in this kind of market successfully is future.
Yeah, definitely an interesting market. Someone asking in the chat, is Trump speaking today? POTUS, President of the United States of America, is, I believe there's a live news conference scheduled for, I'm trying
130.
to, 1:30? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you go to White House that live, he's actually, I think, answering questions right now, but it's on his way somewhere. So we have a live event scheduled this afternoon, and that's probably going to change the market a little bit. 5 insights for the week ahead, Tom, because
Yeah.
it,
Yeah. I want to cover these. One thing I did do over the weekend, and do y'all remember me talking about my penalty tape? I might put the link in there for everybody. Chuck sent it to me. And one thing that I did over the weekend is I listened to that tape not once, but twice. And why is it a penalty tape? Okay. I call it a penalty tape is if you have a market that you lose money in, you really need to go back to some of the basics. And so I went through that, and I thought I'd share 5 insights that are pretty good that apply. Tape was made years ago, but they really apply to this current market. And I thought I'd share that with you. And here they are, the 5 insights.
all right, let's see what we got. Insight number one.
Yeah, you want to set your weekly goals and decide how much you're willing to risk to get it. So this is when I'm talking about a trading account here. you got to say on Monday or Sunday, this is how much I'm willing to risk, and this is what I would like to comfortably make off what I'm willing to risk. And this is the hard part, the discipline to remember what you said and stay with it this week. And you can, there's some ballparks I could give you. I'd say if you had a $50,000 account and you're doing what I call at the upper extreme of risk, and that'd be options, I would think you'd call that at the upper level of risk as options. I would say you are be probably willing to risk about 10% of that to make your money this week, if that's what you want to do. Now, 10%, you know, that's an aggressive approach with what opportunities come about. But I think everybody here would benefit by sitting there asking themselves that question. Hey, this is how much money I'd like to make this week. Now, notice I started out my conversation by saying my whole goal is not losing money during this stage. Did y'all hear that? My whole goal is not to lose money. And so I'm going to be very cautious on anything I do. And I'm not going to trade as much as I normally do. And that's why I did follow it up by saying futures offer you a good risk reward at times throughout the day. So does everybody understand what I'm talking about by setting a goal for each week? You'd be surprised how this will help you frame your week, okay? And that is, to me, something that everybody here ought to be doing.
Yeah, and Tom, it's not just about having those weekly goals and managing that risk, but insight number two, of course, is all about discipline.
Yeah, and this is where a lot of people, okay, there's three things you got to know if you're going to put money at risk. Number one, when are you going to get in? And if you do get in and right, where are you going to take your profit? You're not getting in for the fun of it, are you? So where are you going to take your profit? And here is two things I usually set with options. I have a target price and I have a time price. And that time price with options is 72 hours. So that's pretty good. And the other number I got to know before I even take the trade, and I know this before I even take the trade, I say to myself, where would I not do this trade? And I would think my analysis might be wrong. That's my all bets off number, okay? Fitting the time I'm talking about, okay? So it's going to be a lot tighter if I'm using 72 hours to determine whether to stay with an option trade. My all bets off number is going to be a lot tighter, okay? And my time will be shortened if let's just give you some warning signs. Say I'm long something and it's below that midpoint for the week. Say the midpoint's 105 and it's trading 103. I'm probably going to not wait to the third day. If it doesn't look like, if nothing telling me it's going to get higher in that midpoint. I use that midpoint quite a bit throughout that 3-day period. For example, today, if I was going to be long something, and I'm at the end of the day, even though I entered it this morning, and I'm at the lower third of that range, especially below the midpoint, I'm probably just going to pitch it back. And that's another insight I think you got to be disciplined about in this kind of market. I hope everybody understands that one. That's a very important one to your success.
And let's move into insight number three, Tom, which is all about the mental game.
Yeah, I find that I don't make money if I'm not positive. And so even when I'm not positive, I'm going to be positive if I'm trading. If I'm not trading, maybe I'll be negative. But the point is, be positive and keep that positive attitude. Look at the good things about what you do, not the bad things about what you do, the way I look at it, okay? Right. Billy, all bets off number means a number that would tell you you shouldn't have made the trade before you made the trade, okay? So if you thought a stock was 110, it went to 100, and you said it shouldn't be at 100, okay?
Yeah, and of course, ABO, the acronym for all bets off.
Right.
All right, and let's do insight number four. Important step here.
Yeah, Chuck taught me this one years ago. And he said, at the end of the day, you really ought to look at everything. Just don't assume you like everything in your account. And I listen to Chuck. And so every day, the last thing I do when I end this day, I'll take 5 minutes, review my account, make sure I've got what I think I've got in there, because sometimes I don't through click errors. Okay. And, and I make adjustments there at the end of the day. That happens sometime between 3 and 4 in the afternoon.
Yeah, and I would argue, Tom, that even if you're not actively trading, if you take 5 minutes a day to just look at the market and review it, 5 minutes a day is how you can learn what the market is up to, and you stay on top of it. You know, you and I have been doing this for years. If we don't take those 5 minutes within 2 or 3 days, we're not sure what we're looking at.
And we're paying a price based on ignorance, not based on what we what we did with our plan or anything else. So take that 5 minutes, last 5 minutes of your day when it comes to trading, take 5 minutes.
Right. Let's go to insight number five. What are you doing here?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I know why I'm a trader, but do you know why you're a trader? You have to answer that question. Why are you doing this? Why are you in here trying to be a trader? Because this is a hard game we call trading. Okay. And somebody says, I like the rush. Yeah, that rush is good when you're winning, but it sure does feel bad when you're getting water in your nose, isn't it?
I'll tell you what, though, it's a great answer to the question. And William, I'll say this: if you're one of those people who likes that adrenaline push, likes that rush, then that discipline that you have to bring in becomes that much more important. Curb your enthusiasm, if you will.
Yeah, that's a good show. Made me laugh.
All right, so those are the five insights. Now let's get
Yeah, and I
in.
would post, guys, I'll be listening to more of it and getting inside of what I would say because it sure is a very valuable tape. And maybe they can post that link in there. And during times when you got your hand on your mouth, you ought to probably go listen to the tape and save your money.
Yeah, we'll get that link for the penalty tape.
Yeah, post it inside the room where they can take it and copy it and use it.
Okay, we'll make sure we get that done. Now, I do want to kind of jump into the schedule for this week. We do have a full week here. Uh, we are now on Trade and Trade for Monday. We also have Futures Education, 8 p.m. Eastern tonight. Tomorrow, we do a Connect the Dots session before we come into Trade and Trade. Wednesday, we do a little live trading, that Wednesday, April Live. And for those of you not familiar with that, there's a link for that too. I believe it's dtitrader.com/April Live. We'll get that link posted in just a moment as well. That's going to be the second April Live session. And if you go ahead and sign up now, you can go ahead and review the first one before we get to Live Trading Wednesday. That'll be followed by Train and Trade. And of course, Wednesday, Tom, always means wow. The midweek market update, Wednesday on the web, 8 p.m. on Wednesday night, Eastern Time. And then Thursday and Friday, we stick to Train and Trade. That's going to be the main session here. So want to make sure everybody stays connected. Wendy asked, what is Connect the Dots? Tom, you want to explain that real quick?
Yeah, Wendy, it's a program I called T-Buzz All-Stars. And typically on a Tuesday, which is a trade day, I can connect the dots of what we see to make money for that week. Like a weekly trade I usually come up with on Tuesday inside the T-Buzz All-Star program. Now, I want to highlight tonight, why did I choose this schedule today? Well, we've been closed, a little abnormality in the week with Easter, and And I said to myself, I have a group of people who are learning futures from me and everything. I think that I'm gonna focus on futures and education tonight because, like I said, when I started this talk today, this is really the only market that lends itself for this type of environment where the odds are in your favor. And you can do indexes, you can do gold, you can do silver, you can do corn, grain. You can do a lot of different things in the futures market because the entry and exits are available to you 24 hours. For options, on the one hand, you put those on. If you take an overnight, sort of forced to do, guess what happens? You got that big nightly risk, okay? And yeah, Peg, it is. Peg is connect the dots, part of it, okay? Yep. Well, that's good. Somebody said the basketball game. I don't follow basketball, but I did know that they had their final basketball tonight at 8:50. So spend some time with me, learn some about futures, and then go watch the basketball game if you so want to watch it. How you like that? I look at the market right now. Crude's almost up 100%, 94.69% year to date. We've come a long way. But one of the things that I've noticed, here's one thing that I've noticed that the oil stocks hit their highs almost 2 or 3 weeks ago. And Chevron, which is a great company, is like at 197. And I'm afraid that a lot of people are buying into what Wall Street is saying. And I know Wall Street said it, had a conversation with the guy that handled a lot of money for Merrill Lynch. And he was so proud of being long crude oil and telling me this was going to last for a year and a half or 2 years. And I said, does your guy ever look at the futures market? He got this blank stare on his face. And I said, as far as I'm concerned, this is not going to last that long. And I would not be buying those stocks because I do think you can trade those stocks. Talking about investing, I wouldn't do it. I think it'll be a lot lower. We'll see if oil comes down. That's my thoughts. All right, here's my tickers. I gave you the tickers. There's the numbers. I gave you a long and a short for the QQQ, long and a short for the SPY. I gave you a long and a short for GLD. I gave you a long for AGQ. I really like that AGQ. That AGQ, one of my customers, Tom, remember me talking about it years ago in a situation like we're in. He's held it all these years, done quite well with it. AMD, I said greater than 220.55 should be a buy. Well, you could have bought it this morning, but you had to act fast. It went to 226. Apple above 257. I noticed Apple's at 259, so it's already clicked. And I had Google at 301, so got two that's clicked already. That's pretty good stuff. The 10 ticker. This week, you got a pretty stable week today in the market. It's a little weak on Wednesday, Thursday, 65 and 49. Let me talk a little bit about the deadline that President Trump has set, I guess, for tomorrow night at 8. Does everybody have that deadline written down for 8? I'm just going to ask a general question. How many people think he might extend that deadline? And how many people think he'll do like his tweet said? I'm just curious. I'm getting a lot extended. Frank says no. pretty interesting. There's a place, I believe, somebody told me, I hadn't found it yet, on Polymarkets. You might look on Polymarkets or Couchy. I couldn't find it. They got a bet going on. Okay. I'd like to find that poll, see where the real money is. If anybody finds it, let me know. Either on Couchy or Polymarkets. It got a bet on whether the deadline is going to be extended or not. Okay. I like to look at real money if I'm putting money at it. Yeah, Interactive Broker might have one according to Wendy. Okay. All right, Chuck, handle the news, will you?
Yeah, sure, Tom. So we have ISM non-manufacturing came out this morning, Monday news, and let me just go ahead. I was over on Kalshi trying to find that information you were talking about, but if I check out the news this morning, ISM expected to come in at 54.8, actually came in at 54.0, so a little bit below expectations. And then tomorrow we've got durable goods. That's month over month. That's expected to be down a little bit. And Wednesday, EIA petroleum status report. Quick update, guys. If you're thinking about filling up your car this week, today's probably a pretty good day for that. When do you think, Tom? Today,
Absolutely.
maybe tomorrow, but definitely don't wait on Wednesday. Um, we've got FOMC minutes later this week, and that
Just let
will.
me give you the insight there on filling up your car. Anytime you got an uptrend going in crude oil, fill it up on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Odds are in your favor.
And of course, if it's a downtrend, wait till after Wednesday.
That's right. That
So,
becomes a Thursday fill up. Tuesday or
yeah.
Thursday is your two trigger days.
But always keep in mind, those of you who are interested in gas prices and everything that goes along with that, that EIA petroleum status report on Wednesday is kind of a big deal. Now, most of the time, the crude market's probably not this volatile, so it's not that important. But when you have a volatile crude market, pay attention to, you don't really need to know what the crude oil inventories are, but do need to know that report comes out on Wednesday. Except, Tom, if we have a Monday holiday and then it comes out on Thursday. So, small comment there. All right, so what's our part two? We're going to be looking at Thursday and Friday, and these are really the two big news days this week, aside from the non-economic stuff. Non-economic stuff, I would put that as Iran. And of course, Tom, we didn't even mention the Artemis 2 mission. Uh, those four astronauts going further away from the planet Earth than anybody has ever been before, and that'll probably happen within the, excuse me, within the next few days. Sorry about that. But Thursday morning, PCE, core PCE, month over month and year over year. And tonight, thanks, Dave. So Artemis 2 is tonight. Check out some videos on that. Probably right around the time, Tom, right after the uh, Futures First. So you got Wednesday night specials and Thursday night specials. You're just get slotting in right there in the perfect time slot. So also on Thursday we have GDP. Important to note, this is the final GDP for the fourth quarter. Later this month we'll get our preliminary GDP for the first quarter, but we'll get the final GDP for the fourth on Thursday. And then of course jobless claims comes out every Thursday. And we move into Friday with core CPI. Someone asked earlier about what's really, what was it? The question about interest rates. Do the job numbers hurt the idea of getting interest rates? Not as much as inflation. So pay attention to that CPI number, core CPI coming out on Friday. And of course, tied in with PCE coming out Thursday. So if you're thinking about an interest rate adjustment, pay attention Thursday and Friday as we get both PCE and CPI. And then, of course, as always, tonight, this afternoon, the T Buzz weekly trade letter. For those of you that don't have access to that, it's $9.99 for 1 year access. Sign up at dtitrader.com/weekly. Released after the Monday closed. Broad market update, key news for the week. We just covered a few things there. There'll be a little bit more detail. Key earnings to watch. We're not really in the heart of earnings season, but there are still a few players to pay attention to. Weekly Magic 5 stocks. Can't wait to see those. That's going to be, picking those, Tom. It might be a fun week to go and look at opportunities there. And then, of course, the special opportunities. Tom will let you know what he's seeing as the best way to approach the market, his premier opportunity for the week. That'll be in the T Buzz weekly trade letter released after the market close later today. And the new options education resource, dtitrader.com/optionsedu. We know that Adam has been working on that diligently. That will be available to everybody. Just go ahead and click on in, check that out, and see what you can learn. Always looking to create the learning space here where traders do get to have an appreciation for the markets they're looking at and an understanding of how to approach them and trade them. So we hope to put together that information as well as we can. Let us know what you think about that. Go ahead and visit Options Edu, dtitrader.com/Options Edu.
All right, Chuck, we got day 3 going on right now for the first 3 days of April. It's April 6th, pushed into the month calendar-wise a little bit, but today is day 3, and I just updated this, April 6th at 11:36 a.m. Eastern Time. The way this works, it'll look a little bit different tomorrow. This 3-day high and low will say FTD high and low, but it is factoring in day 1 and day 2 highs and lows, and day 3 so far. It's factoring all that in. Once we get to tomorrow, I'll move these 2 columns over, and you'll be able to see which stocks are actively above their 3-day high, or which stocks are actively below their 3-day low, or if they're stuck in the middle of that 3-day range. If you're brand new to this spreadsheet, I think we have a few people brand new here today, and welcome in. We call this the first 3 days spreadsheet. The first 3 days of every month, we take the highest high from those 3 days and the lowest low from those 3 days. That forms a high-low frame, if you will, and we want to see stocks break out above the high to trend higher, or break down below the low to have a quicker trend lower. And
now, Jonathan, let me stop you. I think if we have some new people, explain the importance of what happens if that event occurs, percentage-wise.
Yeah, we're really focused in on the S&P 500 because majority of stocks, 70-75% of all stocks, will follow the S&P 500's direction. And from our study of 5 years, 2021 through 2025, those 5 years, and I want to go back further, but for those 5 years, 2021 to 2025, we found that if the S&P, once its 3 days is complete, if the S&P can open above the high, there's a 78% chance, or excuse me, 87% chance, I flipped the numbers around there, there's an 87% chance that the month ends positive. So let me repeat that, just because I fumbled on my words there a little bit. If the S&P can have a day where it opens above the 3-day high, we found there's an 87% chance that month ends positive. So if you like trading with the odds in your favor, This is absolutely something that you need to pay attention to every month, even if you just focus on the S&P futures. All right, even if you just focus on that one market, it'll go a long way to tell you, informing you, are the odds greater for a higher market or are the odds greater for a lower market by the end of the month? All right. Any questions on this? And Tom's answering someone here in the a question that was asked in the chat. Tom, what question were you addressing there with?
Yeah, one of the students thinks I'm underestimating the ugliness and complexity of the Middle East situation. And I said, I don't disagree with that statement. It's just that I believe the market, which forecasts 6 to 9 months in advance, will figure out by July 4th that we're going higher. And I believe that based on experience, based on numbers, but I got to see the numbers July 4th to know for sure. But when I look at the market right now, a lot of times, and you got to keep this in mind, a lot of times the news will get really bad and the market will diverge and not go down, it will go up. And it's generally because there's events in the future that overcome all that bad news. For example, if you notice that somebody downgrades a stock for that day, if that stock ticker is very strong, it might reflect that on the downgrade, but by 1 or 2 days later, if that trend's strong enough, that guy's left in the woodpile. Market has a real good gauge for looking at the future. I mean, ask yourself this. The market is down 5% roughly, right? If you just average everything together. With everything that's going on, I would think we ought to be down 30 or 40%. Now, I know that's just an opinion. I mean, I'm shocked that it's only down 4 or 5%. Okay, that's my maybe that's my shocking deal, because I know what oil prices that if they stayed here would do. It'd be a recession. It would be economy would be in for a world of hurt. So you got to believe, I believe, what the futures are telling us. And I had the same discussion Saturday. Is we'll go check that in a second, okay? And I think that we'll be able to look at that. So, well, why do they have this forecast in December this way? There's a question, why July 4th? Well, you will find that the first month of every quarter is sort of I would call it a time to reset your thinking. April follows January, July follows April. We're halfway through the year, and it's a good time for the market to reset. It's historical. And you go track that out if you go follow the quarterly open and sort of paint the picture for what's happening. I've known it for a long time. I use it. Jonathan, before we get into that, why don't we go to this is a good point to go to a live market and look at a few things?
It's always a good point to go to the live market. Let me cue that up real quick, Tom.
Huh?
If you can hear me, I said it's always a good time to go to a live market. I got the
Yeah, before we do, repeat what Steve wants you to do, because I want to make that point about that.
Steve says, can you repeat the 3-day algo focus and direction one more time? The 3-day algo, we call it the FTD, stands for the first 3 trading days of the month. first 3 trading days of the month. We marked the highest of the 3 highs, we marked the lowest of the 3 lows, and that gives us the FTD algo range, essentially a frame to trade from. We did a 5-year study going back to 2021, up until the end of last year, and we looked at if the S&P had any day that opened above the 3-day algo high, what were the odds that the month finished positive? And we found there's an 87% chance the month finishes positive. If
Say that one more time. Make sure that resonates with everybody when we do all this work on it.
Yeah, it's extremely important from what we found. If the S&P 500 futures has a day where it opens above the 3-day high, all right, excuse me, I used the SPY, SPY, but S&P 500. If it opens above the 3-day high, there is an 87% chance from our study that the month ends positive. Any questions on that? Yeah, Steve, it could be the 4th day trade day of the month. It could be the 15th trade day of the month. If the S&P opens above its 3-day high, that's where the odds of 87% come in from our 5-year study. If the S&P cannot open above its 3-day high, then, as Tom says, all bets are off. Right, Paul. That's SPY during regular market hours. That's correct. Cash market hours. So any questions on any of that before we move on? Any questions?
All right, I got something that just came across the wire I need to read to people, okay? And I'm going to go back and reread it, but here's the gist of it. The markets believe the deadline is real. They believe that the frustration if Iran does not accept the offer, severe consequences. And therefore, this article is expecting, get this one, up to a 17% drop if that deadline stays. Pretty interesting. Put a number on it, didn't he? Came off data. Anyway, we'll see. I'm of the stage. We've talked enough. Either we're going to act or move on a different way. Yeah, that's what that writer had predicted. There have been other predictions, but this whole article looked good. I'm gonna go back and reread it. And anyway, it came across. All right, let's go. What I'd like to do first, John, can we go to the futures market and look at crude oil for December?
Oh, okay, you want the December contract?
Yeah.
League 26. And the roadmap's got a little issue here. Not sure we're going to be able to look
Let's
at that.
go to a live market future. Look at it that way. No.
What you got it marked out on your platform there, Tom?
I hadn't looked at it. That's why I wanted you to do it, but I can go look at it. I just wanted them to see it.
Yeah, I don't know if that live quote there, 72.94, is correct. It might be. We'll see.
Let me check. Okay, that's December, right?
Yep.
Okay.
CLZ6. Yeah, 72.94. That's what I got on Tasty Trade.
Let me check.
Correct live quote there.
So 72 is where it's got it, right?
That's correct. 72.95 right now.
Well, there you have it, folks. So the question I posed to everybody that sees Armageddon, why is it at 72? What do you think that means? It means the market is basically telling the world, us future traders, that it's going to go from a current price. Well, let me say it differently. It's going to go from wherever high it goes to down to 72 by December. And that backs you into my July 4th day. It's got to happen by sometime, right? So July 4th is the most logical time that we see what I would call a turn in the sentiment towards what's happening in crude oil. The other thing, and you could put CVX in there, put CVX in there daily. What's the high of CVX?
That high was up at just shy of 215.
All right, so CVX was at 215, and that was what, 5 or 6 days ago? It looks to me as a amateur chart reader will say, CVX is telling us that crude oil down the road might be going lower. Just throwing that out for everybody to see. We look at these things, so you know, you've got to have numbers to sort of back up what you think, and backs up what I think. Therefore, I'm not buying CVX. I wanted to show that to everybody because I think it's important for them to see it, Jonathan, you know?
Absolutely. Yep. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, because I'm not sitting here. I'm trying to figure out what is my main goal, to try to come up with ways where you won't lose money. Because I see the sun will come up, okay? And not yet, they'll say, are you short crude? No way, not yet. I'm just giving you the future. Okay, my main goal is to keep you from losing money. And that's through education and through these insights that you get to help you navigate this market, okay? Did that open your eyes seeing the futures market, how valuable it is to, okay? Why I believe everybody here ought to trade futures. I don't know how you can trade without having full knowledge of all the information that makes you helps you make decisions. I don't know why anybody put $1 at risk. And without having the futures deal, you really need to learn futures. That's my thought. Okay, Jonathan. We looked at D-mini, right? High day 60. Draw the frame, if you will, on the 3-day high, 3-day low coming into the second half of the day. And the midpoint of those, the highest and the low, where the midpoint comes in.
We had a marginal new high this morning up at 66.58.
Okay.
And on Thursday, we had a low of 65.03. We take the midpoint of those, 66.58 plus 65.03 divided by 2. Midpoint's about 65.80, 65.80, which is basically where we open the week. Although the week opened 65.90, but that's very, very close to the midpoint of the 3 days at this point.
Yeah. So basically, is telling you we're at 66.40 right now, up near the high. It's sort of like it's at the top of Genesis, and it looks to me like it came down to what, about 66, 25, 20 area, right? Try to mount another rally. All right, so let's go back to the slides and wrap this thing up. Anybody got any questions? Whatever has gone on January through March, it's been very difficult to keep putting wins on the board. We've been able to do that through the DTI approach, through targeted type plays. And I believe that because of that, if you've been listening, and I'll say you had to be listening, of course, if you're off on your own, you probably lost a bunch of money. But if you look at what we've done, I think it's been extraordinary. That's just a side view of somebody that's had to come up with this approach ever since February 28th. So my plan's pretty simple. Be very careful until the VIX goes below 20. Educate yourself. Like look, you know how many years it's been since I've listened to the penalty tape? A lot of years. This weekend, I made it my goal to really get inside it. And I think I gave you some very big value this morning. How many people think they got value out of those 5 insights so far out of the penalty tape? You know why it's called a penalty tape? You lose money if you don't listen. Insight number 1, set your weekly goals, including how much you're willing to risk to get it. Insight number 2, be disciplined. Have rules for entry, targets, and all bets off numbers. Targets can be prices, but they can also be time, especially if you're dealing with options. Keep a positive attitude. Sun will come up. And take 5 minutes every day to review and learn the lessons of that day. I would know why I'm a trader and what my motivations are. And I would make it a point to create this book of these insights that'll save you money, okay? What I'm spending a lot of time inside my futures training is to educate people on how to follow these numbers and tell people how these numbers help you make decisions. Keeps the emotions out of trading. I know one of the biggest things that keep people from making money is their emotions. Now, we're talking today about our July class. By the way, we've got 2 slots going in July. That's a very small class. That's the way I started DTI many years ago. And small classes, I believe, are priceless. And people tell me they are. Now, things like how to find a daily pivot, having numbers to trade off of, how to trade that first hour in the morning, with that daily pivot, reference bars, and trading with consistency. Consistency is the key. Doesn't do any good to make money on this trade, lose money on that trade. You got to be consistent. How to go to the E-mini, NASDAQ, and pick up trades at the different reference bar times. How to use gold options with no risk leverage. I got a strategy there I teach. How to trade crude and crude options. That's going to be important. Still is. And my top stock portfolio for the second half of 2026. I will review it and show you how to handle it. You know what we did the last 5 years? It's been unheard of when you think about how good it's been. Saw a 50% return on our gold mutual fund, about a 30% return on our tech mutual fund. I call it a mutual fund because I put stocks inside my tech area, stocks inside my gold and silver that I own. Stuff to look forward to. Create a personalized action plan for each people that attend to help you achieve your goals for the year. Now, we only got 3 seats open in the July Futures in-person class. It's $5,000, but that's not all it includes. What we do, about 30 days prior to that class, you start getting a lesson plan, plus you get 1 year of futures education from the date you attend. So you'll get all the time up to the time we start the class for a year later. That cuts the price in, okay? Neil says, I've signed up, I'm in it, I'll see you in July. John Prowl, I talked to him last week. I said, John, how you been doing it? So I just made $4,800 on what you taught me. I said, John, you just made my week. Everybody give John a hand. He listened, he turned himself around, and he's on the right track. The last time we talked about the July class, and to keep, since I only got, 3 spots left, we'll make the deal the same. Last time we spoke about the July class, we offered a few bonuses thrown in at no charge. Bonus number 1. 1 full year of futures plus education online. That's a value of $14.49. Subtract that from your face-to-face. 1 year. Tonight we'll meet at 8 o'clock. We'll talk about how to trade at night. We'll do that tonight and show you how simple it is, Delta 10 and 50 strategies, and my 3-step approach that people love. Simple, straightforward. In total, we have 63 classes, part of our on-demand curriculum, put together for you on different topics. Anything from currencies to wheat, corn, everything else. $63. 1 year license to the roadmap. But once you have the roadmap, I'll give you a 1 year license to the roadmap software. That's got a $997 value. Now we got it down to roughly about $3,400, right? Okay. Need this. There's the software. And Jonathan, this quick start guide, what's so great about it?
Well, I'd say there's nothing worse than getting the software and then not having any kind of direction on how to use it. And so that's the main focus of the quick start guide, is get you up and running, get you access to the main features. I'd say the top, I think it's 8 videos. So I think it's 7 lessons on the top features of the roadmap. and just getting you started, on the right foot. Basically, is the focus of the quick start guide. And once you get through that, we've got a 22 lesson roadmap trader course we'll give you as well. And that just
Goodness.
that,
We never had that before.
that's more like a deep dive into how to use roadmap plus education on the market and how we view the markets is a big focus of the roadmap trader course. So got those two. We also have the 67% accuracy module. Well, I think that's your favorite module there, Tom. 67.
It is my favorite. Why not start out by raising the accuracy and lowering your risk on the very first trade you make after you go through that module? That alone will pay for it.
And you can't have a trading course without a trade management module included, so we include that as well. Of course, you get access to all the 100 features of the roadmap. I just listed 3 here that everybody seems to love. The compass charts to get the zones on when to buy and sell, and resistance and support as well included. The High Noon scanner, our favorite scanner. We have about 5 or 6 in the roadmap. That's our favorite. And a little blurry there, but the electronic tape reader we call the ETR page, Tom, that was one of the original features of the roadmap.
One of my favorite features still. I got it on every computer I got the roadmap up on.
I know you do. I know you have a separate screen.
Jonathan laughed at me when he comes to one of those classes. I got a whole page of the ETR line.
Yeah, if we had it your way at the in-person class, we'd have an extra 60-inch screen TV just for the.
Yeah, really. We've got big screens in there right now too.
Yeah,
so that's good.
Hey, Tom, he laughs at me too. I have a whole entire page in my workspace designated to the ETRs. I got 3 of them up.
And it's not nostalgia, folks.
No.
I can sit there, do something like this, glance over there and see, hey, AMD's holding 219.50. Okay, anyway, that's just an example.
Tom, we have a great question from Peg in the chat. She says, what size portfolio would this in-person class benefit?
Well, Peg, I will tell you, you can start at $2,500 in your portfolio, because if you come to this class at $2,500, will grow using the techniques I'm going to teach you. You don't need a lot of big money to take advantage of what I teach you. I mean, just look at our track record on helping you with retirement accounts, with the different things we did last year to show you how to break it down and put it together. But it's time we get back to, especially, what's the key about that July class? I'll tell you what's key about it. It's right after July 4th. What a time to have a class. Explain this one, Jonathan. What did I say last week? What did I say?
Well, I was shocked when you offered this, to be honest with you. It was a BOGO of 50%, which means if you join one class, you can get a second class plus an extra year of Futures Plus and an extra year of the roadmap at half cost. So it's kind of confusing the way it's listed there. So let me just go through that in more detail. So 2 in-person classes, if you decide to join one this year and one 2 years from now, that'd be a $10,000 value. 2 years of Futures Plus online, it would be almost $3,000 of value there if you purchase those separately. And the roadmap at almost $1,000 a pop, that'd be close to $2,000 value there. So I've got the total retail listed there, and I got price today if you decide to join us for 2 classes, which again includes 2 years of Futures Plus online and 2 years of roadmap. I asked Adam for the prices of each of these separately, just because I knew it was just an incredible detail that you don't offer ever, and half cost really.
And let me tell you, folks, I'll tell you generally, people that come in April, we got a packed class in April. I had to take some extra people in there. Once I fill up the 2 classes, what tends to happen, those people want to come back later on in the year. I have 2 more classes later on in the year, and they come back for those classes, so I don't have any spots. That's one reason you ought to take a spot, take this deal, and then if you want to come back this year, you've got a perfect way to do that, because you'll get priority because you have that paid for class already. by joining at 7,500. Everybody understand what I'm saying? After July, think about this. We finish Sawgrass. We'll have maybe 100 people online, 40 to 50 people in person. This class won't be available by the time we get to July. The first class will be offered to be September. Just per chance somebody has to move, you might have one slot, but usually you don't have that. I'm just telling you how the schedule works. So you gotta, I know sometimes you gotta plan, just like you do with your trade. You gotta plan. I'm going down there and I'm going to start benefiting from all this services that I take and everything else to take advantage of by being face to face. That's the beautiful thing about it. Got 3 seats open, take advantage of. If you want one of those seats, got some questions answered, type your name and email in here, and we'll have somebody call you and try to get you locked up, okay? That's all I got, folks. I'll see everybody tonight at 8 in the Futures Plus. Hope you can make it.
We'll be sending out a link for tonight's open house and all the Telegram channels, so be sure to keep a lookout on the Telegram channels. As Tom said, if you can click the link, dtexter.com/July Futures, and sign up online. But if you'd rather speak to Kelly Barber or Jeffrey Andraka, just post your name and your phone number, and I'll request that they call you today immediately. So, Tom, we'll see you tonight at 8, and I am going to replay the entirety of today's session because there's just a ton of good insights that Tom went through today, and we'll just have a listen to the entire recording, and we'll see everybody tonight.
Okay, thanks, Jonathan.